We all have those games that we love and that we're constantly evangelizing because they're so good. But for whatever reason, they continue to fly under the radar for a large number of gamers. So I'm going to use this video to talk about 5 games that I think are great and that deserve to be played by more people. These are games that are regarded as good by the people who have played them, including myself. This is my list, and it isn't meant to be a list of super obscure games that only I know about. It's meant to be a list of games that I think are great and deserve more recognition than what they currently get. Now let's get into the list. Number 1, Mad Max. Mad Max was developed by Avalanche Studio, the Just Cause one, not the Hogwarts Legacy one, and published by Warner Brothers. It's an open-world game that follows the typical formula of taking over bases, towers, etc., but it's set in the post-apocalyptic world of Mad Max, and that fits that formula perfectly. While the melee combat is nothing special, it's essentially just a ripoff of the Arkham games, the heart of this game is the car customization and combat. The whole central core of Mad Max is collecting gasoline to keep your car going. It's getting new upgrades for your car so that you're able to dish out more damage to your enemies' vehicles or able to absorb more damage from their vehicles. This game, similar to the movies, is all about car combat, vehicular combat, and they knocked it out of the park. Super fun, tons of customization. Definitely worth playing. Everything else around the game is nothing super spectacular as far as open world games go. It's pretty by the numbers, but it's done well, it fits the themes, and overall is just a good time. On top of that, this game still looks amazing even though it was released way back in 2015. Number 2, Evil West. Evil West was developed by Flying Wild Hog Studio and published by Focus Entertainment. Evil West is just a great video game that harkens back to the days of the Xbox 360. No battle pass, no microtransactions, no BS. It's set in a ridiculous world with goofy characters, but it has really solid gameplay. The gameplay is a blend of environmental puzzle solving and combat. These puzzles are really satisfying, but they're not overly complicated. They're pretty much just sprinkled throughout the game to break up the combat. The combat is the core gameplay mechanic of Evil West. And you would think by looking at it that it plays like a third-person shooter. But the combat is much more similar to the recent God of War games. And it's a ton of fun due to the variety of weapons at your disposal and the satisfying impact and presentation of all the fights. There's gore, the shotgun blast feels incredible, the accuracy of the sniper, the visceral nature of all of the melee attacks, just overall a very fun combat system to watch and to play. And as a bonus cherry on top, the whole game can be played through co-op. Number 3, Kunitsu-gami Path of the Goddess. This game was developed and published by Capcom. The gameplay is a blend of tower defense and third-person action. The heart of the loop is the tower defense, but the inclusion of the action combat lets you feel more involved in the fight against the waves of enemies. It really puts you in the middle of that struggle as opposed to kind of being above it all, watching how it all works out. You actually have a hand in how the defenses you set up are maintained and last and how the level goes. The art style is very beautiful and really unique and one of my favorite things about this game. The progression is extremely satisfying. The game is always rewarding you with new types of character units to use and new abilities for the ones that you already have. Also, it rewards replaying levels that you've already completed because there is a base restoration mechanic, and as you restore these bases, you're getting more and more rewards and things that you can use to upgrade your units, get more powerful, And so there's just constantly all of these carrots on sticks to chase, and it feels really good. Overall, it's a really interesting and unique game to come from Capcom, and I think it's worth checking out. Number 4, Kaa Bridge of Spirits. Kaa Bridge of Spirits was developed and published by Ember Lab. This game, as you can see if you're watching and not just listening while you do dishes or something, has really awesome visuals. It looks like a Pixar movie. It plays like a game from the GameCube/PS2 era, where you're exploring a mostly linear world with open areas and you're fighting enemies along the way. And I mean that in a good way. It takes the heart of what made those games fun and great and kind of updates it and brings it into the modern era. The story of the game is quite melancholy, especially compared to its cartoon art style. Kaa is a spirit guide, and her job is to clear out the corruption in the land and help lost spirits who are stuck between lives, ultimately helping them move on to the afterlife. The combat in Kaa starts pretty simple, but it can get difficult pretty quickly. Mostly this is due to how hard the enemies hit you and how limited your ability is to heal. But if this is an issue, you can always just lower the difficulty and just enjoy the world and the story. Before we get to the final game, if you agree with my list and if you're enjoying the video, please consider subscribing to the channel. And let me know in the comments what some of your favorite underrated games are. Number 5, the Plague Tale series. So Plague Tale Innocence and Plague Tale Requiem are developed by Asobo and published by Focus Entertainment. I'm cheating a little bit here by putting 2 games on my list at number 5, but you need to play them in order, so you can pretty much apply anything I say here to just the first game if you want to start there. The stealth gameplay in the Plague Tale series games is good, but it isn't anything you haven't really seen before, with the exception of the rat mechanic. There are hundreds or even thousands of rats on screen, and they will eat you, or anyone else they can, alive. However, they hate light. So most of the puzzles in these games revolve around using light to manipulate the hordes of rats to your advantage. The main thing that sets this series apart is its setting and characters. It punches way above its weight in both of these areas. The writing is great. The voice acting is some of the best I've heard, especially from the main character Amicia. And the setting is brutal and unforgiving. The story is very dark and left me feeling strong feelings at multiple points throughout. Overall, I think these games are incredible, and if you haven't played them, you definitely should. These are 5 games that I think deserve more recognition than they get, and I think people should try. But what do you think? What games do you think fly under the radar? Like I said, let me know in the comments. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on games, including the ones in this video, check out our podcast on all the podcasting platforms and right here on YouTube. That's all for now. Stay friendly, gamers.